Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zeniton, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be doing something I haven't really done before for Legends of Runeterra. In fact, I don't think anyone's done it for Runeterra since the game has gone into open beta, because this is the first patch for Legends of Runeterra, the first balance patch, really. Today I'm going to go through the balance patch that should be up by the time I upload this video. A lot of good changes. I think Riot themselves did a very good job with the patch. I'm very happy. Nothing got hit too hard. Nothing got completely crushed. There's a few things I'm a little upset about, but you can learn about that later and hear my opinion on that in the future in this video. In fact, I'll probably talk about it. In fact, I'm mostly going to just be rambling about like my thoughts and just other like predictions I think that we'll see in the future of Runeterra with this patch. Anyway though, we're pretty much only gonna go through the card changes because like no one really cares. Like you guys probably don't care about like the FPS options in the PC and stuff. We're just gonna go through the card changes, like what this is gonna mean for the metagame, what I think it's gonna mean for the metagame. Remember, this is all like personal opinion. I just think this is what is going to happen personally, whether I think some patches or some balance changes were good, bad, they completely missed the mark, etc, etc. I do like the patch though. Like I said, it feels really nice because I was really worried because I've played a lot of card games, various type of card games, both in paper, online, ones that have both a paper and online aspect to it. And sometimes you get those patches where it feels like the developers, they either completely miss and they nerf, or they just patch and balance the wrong card and destroys other decks that weren't even a factor, or they might just like completely destroy a deck by just completely grinding something into the ground. I know League of Legends, the MOBA itself, has done this with some champions where a champion's good, and then they just nerf it into oblivion and it never sees play for a long time. So yeah, we're gonna go through every single card that was changed. Not that many cards. I want to keep this video relatively short, like 15, 20-ish minutes. Who knows though, depending on how much I might ramble on about each and every single card, because we'll see like a card and I'll start talking about another card, and like we're still here at the very top anyway. I'm just rambling now. So yeah, this is the first balance patch in the open beta of Legends of Runeterra, patch 0.90. It's got other stuff too, besides like just card changes. You know, you got like, you can see what's going on here, like XP changes, expedition changes. I will include a link to this patch, the patch notes as well in the video description, and maybe in a pinned comment as well, most likely. So you guys can go and read it yourself if you want to read everything else, because there's other stuff besides just card changes. But really quickly, before we actually look at the card changes, let's go over the developer notes. So in the balance in set 1, they are, let's see what they say. Since this patch includes the first balance updates of the beta and many players' first balance updates since starting Legends of Runeterra, we'd like to briefly recap our goals and how you can expect to see them manifest over the several patches that happen between new card releases. I really do like this. I just want to like stop here for a second. I really like this because I have played card games where the developers do not communicate, or if they communicate poorly. I just like this, that the developers are coming out, they're speaking, they're trying to communicate with the community. They're like, this is what we want, this is what we like, and this is our goals and stuff. It's not just card games in general, it's just games in general where it's like, yeah, you don't hear anything. It's like, so let's go through it. When we look at balance in Runeterra and consider changes, we have some high-level aspirational targets we use to guide our long-term efforts. Every champion should have a deck where they're the best fit and their dream can be realized. Personally, I don't think they've reached that yet, because there's some champs that kind of suck. Lux, Teemo, etc, etc. Non-champion cards should have at least one deck where they're a good option. I also don't think that's happened yet. And I also don't think that will ever happen, but that's a very I don't know how to put it. I'm not trying to like insult them, but it's like, it's very ambitious. There we go. It's a very ambitious goal to have. If they somehow are able to achieve that, congratulations, that's very impressive. But I honestly don't think they'll be able to do that easily. Also, regions should have at least one competitively viable deck. I think we currently have that. Demacia has like elusives, Fiora, etc., etc. Freljord has like Ashe, as well as Noxus. Noxus has like Ashe, aggro in general with like spiders and Darius, Draven, Jinx, discard. I don't think I need to talk about Shadow Isles too much. They were just kind of busted. Piltover and Zaun had like Heimerdinger and then Ezreal control, or Ezreal combo and Heimerdinger control, and then like you could even combine the two. So every single region has had their own deck. Now granted, not all of them were tier 1. But I think when they say competitively viable, I mean like, I believe they're saying like, sure, it's not tier 1 and like the most popular deck, but at the very least tier 2 and can take games off the tier 1 decks. And if piloted well, does look really strong. So let's see what they say next. While buffing cards in pursuit of these targets is the fun part, we will also power down cards where necessary. When we do, we want to avoid over nerfs. Cards in their archetypes / decks should remain playable, as well as minimize collateral damage to cards or decks that aren't the actual target of a given change. I love that they have said that, because as I said earlier, I have played card games where that has happened. And as well, the developers, when that happens, they're like, hey, X deck is OP and really, really strong. Can you nerf it? And then they do nerf it by targeting a card. And then the problem is like, hey, X deck is still really strong, but now Y deck, that wasn't a problem at all, is actually even weaker because of that nerf. Can we get more nerfs? And then the developers don't talk and contact or communicate at all. So this is just a really refreshing thing to see. Let's continue. We fully plan to monitor changes rather than drop them and forget, and we'll make further tweaks in future patches as needed. Love it. It reminds me of just like MOBA patching in general, where it's just like small tweaks, small changes, like every now and again. Try to see how things flesh out. Do like a small change, like maybe like one extra point of health here, an extra point of power here, maybe a slight small change here. See how it pans out. Revisit it in a later future patch. Maybe they'll buff it again or nerf it again or whatever. It's very nice. Additionally, we plan to approach balance with a seasonal mindset, adjusting our methods as the meta goes through different stages between sets of cards. Once we're out of beta and get into our regular cadence of releasing new sets, it should look something like this. Step 1. New set of cards are released. The first balance patch happens, mostly medium-sized number of changes based on our early sense of outliers. Second balance patch, significant updates to underutilized cards, and the main patch where you can expect any major champ changes. And then the third balance patch would be limited number of changes to stabilize any meta issues, and then the next set of cards will be released. Just to be clear, this is a pretty loose framework, so be ready for some exceptions, but it generally describes our intent to make sure card changes support the experience of discovering all the possibilities of a new set of meta. From Ruben Zhu of the Live Balance Lead. I do like that. We haven't even gone to the cards yet. I just really, really like this. It's so good to hear this from Riot communicating like this, hearing their plan with the game and how they are going to tackle balance, because card games live or die by how well the games are balanced, I believe. Next up, I'm just gonna skip this. Like, this is mostly just like UI stuff, animation changes. It's fine. It's like, it's nice. Like, sure, the deck builder is gonna be better, the UI looks nicer, and animations are a little bit nicer and stuff, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to talk about this stuff. Now we're talking. We got card updates. First things first, we got Lux being updated. Lux is going from a 6 mana 3/4 to a 4/5, and then when she levels up, she was a 4/5. She's now a 5/6. I like this. It's not. I don't think this will push her into playability. Let's see what they have to say. Lux's weaker stat line made it a little bit too difficult to utilize her as a linchpin, build around me card. Buffing her stats will help her ability to both stick around as an engine and act as a meaningful threat on her own. I do agree with that. The problem is, 6 mana is a lot of mana. Like, you look at this, and you look at Hecarim, who, quick spoiler before we go further down in the cards, he wasn't touched. Now, the one thing I will say is I believe this makes it so Lux is a decent pick in Expeditions. Demacia was already really, really, really good in Expeditions. Lux is now also just better. Like, this is objectively... She's just objectively better now because she has more stats. outside of a few niche spots, but she's just pretty much better now. So yeah, I don't think this is going to be enough of a push to push her into playability for Constructed, but you'll probably see Lux more and more now in Expedition because of her bigger stat line. Like, if I was offered just a 6-mana 4/5 barrier in Expedition, I would probably play it. The problem is, like, her, like, Lux is, it's like she's taking up the champion slot, and I usually would just rather have Garen or Lucian as my champ in Demacia. Just me personally. Next up, though, we have Yasuo. Yasuo now says small buff. Used to be you needed to stun or recall 6 units. Now it's 5 units. I like it. It's just like a good, strong buff for him. Just that simple, like going down by 1, like a small like buff, but it's fairly strong. And let's see what they say. While testing Ionia changes internally, we found that Yasuo was catching collateral damage from changes aimed at elusive and hand buff decks. Inspiring Mentor was one of the best cards to utilize while leveling up Yasuo, and together with Deny, would provide pivotal protection, extra important when heavily building around Yasuo. We've also found Yasuo often difficult to level up in expeditions, especially when not paired with Noxus. This quest buff should address both issues. Okay, I wasn't even thinking about like the expedition side, but that is true. I always thought to myself when I saw Yasuo as Ionia, and when I was playing expeditions, I was like, okay, I've got Yasuo. I really want to be Noxus now, because there's just not enough stun in Ionia alone, and you have to rely on recall, which is kind of bad. So that is nice. Now, of course, leveled up Yasuo is really, really strong. So now the problem is Ionia got hit by a few nerfs too, so who knows? Maybe Yasuo will see play. Yasuo, like, he does feel really strong when he always levels up. But then he doesn't level up, he feels a little underwhelming. He feels like just a worse Zed when he hasn't leveled up, in my opinion. Like, a Zed that's an extra mana that also doesn't create a clone, a shadow copy, whatever. So maybe this will be enough to push him into playability. I don't think so. I think the thing that Yasuo needs is just more good stun and recall effects. Because a lot of them are just, like, bad as cards. Now, granted, it's a Yasuo deck is a synergy-based deck, and they want Yasuo. Like, they're building the deck around Yasuo, so, like, all the decks by themselves kind of suck, but when you have them with Yasuo going off, Yasuo is probably killing things, it's turning into removal, etc., etc. Perhaps we'll see more Yasuo. I don't think so, but maybe. Next up, we got Back-to-Back being nerfed. It's now a 6-mana card. Not much to say about it. No like stat changes. It's still giving 2 allies +3/+3 for the round, and it's still a burst spell, but it's now 6 instead of 5 mana. What do they have to say about it? One of the things we love about Legends of Runeterra is that combat tricks are very playable in our constructed format, which really contributes to compelling interactive gameplay moments. That said, Back-to-Back can be a huge blowout burst speed trick that often leaves opponent without profitable avenues for playing around it. We like this kind of effect, but such a swinging card ultimately warrants a higher cost. I do like this nerf. Back-to-Back, in my opinion, was one of the best cards, especially if we just look at spells alone. Just one of the best cards in the entire game. Because it was kind of easy to cast, because 5 mana, honestly, is not that much mana. And then plus Relentless Pursuit in Demacia, you could, like, play this, attack in, get a lot of damage, and then play Relentless Pursuit and just kill your opponent. I've had that happen to me a few times, and I've done it a few times. As a elusive Demacia player with, like, Demacia and Ionia. Very strong. So I feel like this will slow down those elusive decks without having to touch Relentless Pursuit, because let's be honest, that card's not that good. The one thing I'm a little worried about is I like to play Fiora. Like, not Fiora, like elusives with Fiora, but like actual Fiora combo, whatever you want to combo, control, just trying to win with Fiora decks. That deck wanted to play Back-to-Back. And it was very tight on mana, which is why I liked Back-to-Back, because it was 5 mana. I think Fiora, like, obviously it's a nerf to Fiora decks too, but I think Fiora decks will be fine. I just don't think they're going to be playing 3 back-to-backs now. I think they'll play like 1 or 2. Maybe 3, but I think they'll play like at least... I don't think they'll be playing 3, but probably just 2 now, or even only 1. I don't think they'll cut it completely because the effect is just so strong. You get to protect Fiora and your other unit, like, I don't know, a Laurent Protege or a Shadow Assassin or whatever is on your field. Because, like, the effect is still strong. It's just a little expensive now. Next up, Also, this video is going to be long. It's not even going to be close to 20 minutes. We got the Arena Battlecaster. This card, I always thought this card was kind of meh. In my rating video, I kind of said it was meh because one of the reasons was because of the health, in fact, too. And now he has 2 health. He used to be a 2-1. He's a 2-mana 2-2 attack. Give other battling allies +1/+0 this round. Still the same text, just has 2 health now. And their reasoning is, Battlecaster isn't seeing a ton of use, so it's getting a small buff to help it line up better with other 2-drops and make it a more compelling option for Noxus decks. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. I think it'll be fine. It now, the big thing is it's now surviving Vile Feast and Withering Wail, which were just one of the reasons you don't like. Those are like the 2 big cards in my opinion. You don't like to play 1 health minions. And Archer, the 3-1 for 3, I believe, if I remember correctly, from Freljord. Just 1 health and 2 health is just so huge. Speaking of 1 health, next up we got the Crimson Curator. 3 mana, 3/3 now, instead of a 2/3. When he survives damage, he gets to create a random Crimson unit in the hand. I think this might actually be a huge buff. So let's see the commentary first, before I talk too much about it. Battle Scar decks have been underperforming. Is that what they call self-harm decks, I guess? And the Noxus side of the theme has been a bit one-dimensional. Improving Crimson Curator should increase both options and viability for these decks. I agree. Simple. I do really, really like this card now that it has 1 extra health. Now you don't need to give this guy buffs, and you can potentially get 2 cards without having to buff him at all. And I think that's good, because like before when he was a 3/2, you could probably get only 1 card at most, unless you did some heal effects or some support or whatever. But that's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. Will this guy see play in Vladimir decks? I don't think so. But I think he will. The problem is, like, I don't think this is enough to make Vladimir decks good enough, but I think Vladimir decks are... Any Vladimir buff I'm happy to see because I like the concept of Vladimir decks. And I like this card because this is value. Like, getting random cards, you can, like, throw them away with, like, Piltover and Zon discard effects. It seems nice. You can just use the random Crimson stuff to beat down. It's very nice. Now, the one card that everyone hated. We got Deny. I like Deny, by the way. I like Control. I like counterspells. Not much to talk about here. It's now 4 mana. It was 3 mana. Huge nerf. Deny is moving from Watchlist to Changelist after rigorous internal testing and debate. While there are good arguments for the Deny to exist at 3 mana, ultimately it's proven too prevalent and disruptive to the metagame, heavily restricting viable card options. Very true. You had some decks that were like, I'm going to play no slow spells or fast spells and only burst spells to just blank Deny. That's extremely true. When testing this change internally, we found that play patterns involving Deny tended to feel more fair. Holding up Deny now always costs at least 1 mana per turn that you'd otherwise use to develop your board, a cost that makes for more involved decision making than when Deny was fully castable with spell mana. I mean, they kind of just said what I was going to say, which is the whole, like, now you can't just use spell mana alone. So you can't just, like, use all your mana. You can't just, like, dump all the mana onto units and just, like, flood your board with elusives and then just swing in and hold up Deny to protect from, like, Withering Wail or whatever, or, like, Ruination or something, or Vengeance or whatever. So, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Obviously, it's a nerf. I think Deny is still playable because it's the only counterspell in the game, obviously. So, people are still going to play this card. You'll still see Deny being played. It's not going to be a 3-of anymore in most decks. I think in certain decks and in certain metas especially, you'll be running all 3 Denies. But 4 mana is a lot of mana for decks that want to, like, be very efficient with their mana, you know, like elusives and stuff, and they want to just be, like, getting their creatures on the board, pushing that damage in. I think for control decks, though, that really don't, like, use their mana too much and just are, like, passing with a lot of mana over and over and over, they'll still probably play, like, 2 or even 3 Denies. Now, again, like Deny, now it's just competing with the Will of Ionia slot, too. Deny, though, it's always going to be a meta game call. I think, like, if there's a lot of, like, burst spell stuff, you don't play Deny, you play Will of Ionia. If there's a lot of slows and fast spells, then you play Deny, etc., etc. Another nerf. I've seen a lot of people think this nerf's not that good. or not enough to stop elusives. Inspiring Mentor. He's now a 1 mana 1/2, and he used to give +1/+1. Now he only gives +1/+0. So he's hoarding that health. Before I talk too much about it, let's see what they have to say. Inspiring Mentor was providing too much curve efficiency and resilience to Ionia decks. With the stats granted to the buffed units, often overly protecting them by putting them out of range of similar cost removal, curving Inspiring Mentor into 1 or even 2 4/3 Navori Conspirators was too powerful a play pattern considering its consistency. With this change, we're ensuring an intended weakness of elusive units, their low health, can be more exploitable. That's exactly what I was going to say. Because when you played Inspiring Mentor, you would always buff something to get it out of like range of matchup dependent removal. You know, Mystic Shot, Avalanche, Get Excited, etc., etc. You would be like, okay, let's buff Greenglade Duo out of Vile Feast range. Let's buff Zed out of Mystic Shot range, and so on and so forth. So, I like this change. I always hated seeing this guy on turn 1 when I was playing Control. I was like, alright, I'm playing like Freljord Control or something, and I have Avalanches. Oh, that's a Zed, that's a 4/3. Well, I'm screwed. That's always how I felt when I saw this guy. So now, the problem is, like, will you still play elusives? Because this guy was kind of key to elusives. I'm not sure. Because him having 2 health, like, honestly, that 2 health doesn't matter to him. Like, being a 1 mana 1/2, who cares? He doesn't care about the 2 health. You never play this guy because of his health. You never played him for his stats. You play him for the +1/+1. So I think this might make it so elusives aren't playable. Because, like, being able to give certain elusives, like, you know, Q Lifeblade, put him out of Get Excited range or Black Spear range, etc., was very powerful. So I don't really think elusives will be that playable, or at least not the traditional start with like Mentor into Conspirator elusives and just like beat your opponent up and punch their face in. Next up, we got Jeweled Protector. Not much to talk about here in Jeweled Protector. It's just a 5 mana 4/4 now. Used to be a 3/3. I don't know if this is... I don't know about this one. I think it's like... I like it. Obviously, I like this card, and obviously a buff to it is nice. 5 mana 4/4. I've only really played this card in Expedition. Obviously, I'll like this more in Expedition now. Let's see what Riot has to say. This change is complementary to the one made to Inspiring Mentor, as we don't want to over-nerf the hand buff archetype. Shifting power from Mentor to Protector and into later parts of the game should increase deck building options and give opponents a bit more time to react or set up their own game plans. That's all true, yes. But I don't think Protector going up to 4 power and 4 health is really going to make it constructed playable. The only way I see this guy being playable is like if there's something on 6, like at 6 mana you really want to make big. And like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like, sure, Hecarim, of course, but Hecarim's fine. So yeah, who knows? Maybe. But I highly doubt this guy will see constructed play. Good for Expedition, though. Next up, Q Lifeblade. He's now a 3/2. Or sorry, a 2/2. Not a, good God, if he was a 3/2. Yeah, so Q Lifeblade is now 4 mana 2/2 from being a 2/3. We've previously mentioned that we've been keeping an eye on elusive strategies and working to identify any specific candidates to adjust. One of the intended weaknesses of elusive decks is that fast decks should be able to effectively race them, since elusive units are naturally smaller and less cost efficient. Q Lifeblade often close that door on what should be a fundamental weakness of the deck, so we're adjusting its stats to decrease blocking power and make it easier for opposing decks to answer. It's all true what they're saying. The problem is, so the thing is, like, you would play Q Lifeblade to block as a non-elusive centered deck. Like, I would play it in my Fiora combo decks because I would use Q Lifeblade to try and block and slow down the elusive players while setting up more and more kills for Fiora. So it's obviously affecting non-elusive decks, but I think it's going to affect elusive decks more than non-elusive decks. So I like this. Like, I always hated playing against Q Lifeblade and that guy, because I would be like, okay, my opponent's like playing, I would be like, let me start that again. I would be playing a game, my opponent's playing elusives, and I'd be like, all right, they're elusives, their guys aren't that good, and like they're not that cost efficient, and their stats aren't that good for the cost. Let me try and kill them and race them and try and kill them before they kill me because I have a good curve or something. And then they drop Q Lifeblade, and I'm like, well, GG. And then they would play like back-to-back on Q Lifeblade, or maybe standalone on Q Lifeblade, or something. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm screwed here. Next up, though, Commander Ladros. Well, hello, my search bar. Commander Ladros. He's now a 9 mana 9/6. He was previously an 8 mana 8/6. Oh, they also made it so he now rounds up instead of rounding down. So this big thing means like if you're at 1 health, now he doesn't kill you. He'll just put you at 1. So Ladros got hit by a big nerf. This is a really big nerf to him. Like the 1 extra power to Ladros doesn't matter. And the whole, like, that's like, what, 2 nerfs and a small buff by putting him at 9 power? Like going up to 9, costing 9 mana, that's a lot of mana. That's a huge jump. I'm not sure about this though. And I honestly didn't think like Ladros was that much of a problem. I really don't think this card needed to be nerfed. I really would have preferred to have seen Hecarim get nerfed instead of Ladros. But let's see what they have to say before I talk too much about this. Commander Ladros is an extremely powerful game-ending bomb that also acts as a recursive threat and is flexible to boot. Very true. Offering both excellent stabilization in close games and closeout potential for aggro decks that might have otherwise come up short. Also very short. I've had that happen when I've played against Noxus Shadow Isles aggro decks. Overall, Ladros was a bit too good at undoing whatever previously happened in the game, especially for a card that doesn't require any synergy to be effective. A card that does so much should incur a higher opportunity cost and provide opponents more room to win before and after it's dropped. So, we're bumping its cost up to 9, which will not only delay Ladros' arrival, but also allow less flexibility when recasting it. That is actually true, yes. To partially compensate, we're bumping Ladros' power by 1. If it connects, it should be ending the game. I mean, that was true before, is the thing. I mean, I think Ladros will still see play, though. Like, Shadow Isles Control, I think, will still play at least a 1 of Ladros. Like, you know, the old, we saw it for a bit with, like, Babbling Bjerg, like, Freljord Shadow Isles Control with Babbling Bjerg to fetch Razas and a 1 of Ladros. I still think they'll play, like, a 1 of Ladros, even though it's not a popular deck. Who knows, it might see more popularity. But don't get me wrong, Raza was also nerfed. We haven't gotten to him yet, but we'll see him later. So I think this is a little too much. I feel like maybe if it was up to me, I would have, I don't know what I would have done. Like, I talked about this on my stream a lot about, like, how to nerf Ladros, and I was always like, I don't think Ladros is that much of a problem, but I would like to see a small nerf. Like, I don't know, keep him at 8 mana and make him a 6/6 instead of an 8/6. Maybe make it so he can't block, put him up to 9 mana, keep everything the same. Make it so his ability rounds up, but they did multiple things. They made it so he's more expensive, and they made his ability round up. I don't know. Now, I do think, like, I do like the whole rounding up thing. I always did hate it how he rounded down, or sorry. Yeah, rounded down, that's right. And would be able to kill you. Even though I would sometimes put my opponent to 1 health and be like, all right, I win, Ladros. I'd be like, all right, you're at 1 health, glimpse Ladros, kill Ladros, or play Ladros, sorry. So yeah, overall, I like this nerf to Ladros. Still playable, still fine. Just not, like, probably not going to see play in Shadow Isles mid or aggro as much, and probably still going to see play as a 1 of in Shadow Isles Control, which is, I assume, the initial position that Riot wanted Ladros to be in, and then aggro and mid-range decks started to play him as well. Next up, though. Oh, we got Raza, speaking of. Raza is now 8 mana. Not much to talk about there. I like this change. I really, really do. Before I talk about why I like the change, let me see what they have to say. Raza offers consistent blowout potential across many matchups, and the required setup is cheap to achieve in Shadow Isles. Very true. Good God, was it easy. This often makes Raza difficult for opponents to profitably play around, and can leave them in a rough state where they know they're going to get Raza'd, but there's not much they can do about it. I have had that happen a lot. I have had to have those games where I'm like, alright, I have to do this, and pray my opponent doesn't have Raza. The rate was just too favorable, so we're bumping Raza up to 8 mana in order to give opponents more room to play against. Okay, they didn't talk about why I don't like Raza, or why I like this change. The reason I like this change was... Or the reason I like this change is because it's 8 mana now. So when you were against the Shadow Isles mid decks, any variety, mono, with Ionia, with Freljord, with Piltover's on, whatever. One of the most powerful plays was turn 6 Hecarim, like on your opponent's turn when they have the attack token. Turn moves over to you, you have 7 mana. Attacking with Hecarim, the ephemeral units die because ephemeral, and then you swing it, and then you just slam Raza, and then your opponent's like, well, GG. That was so backbreaking, and it happened so much because Glimpse gave them lots of card draws, so they probably had it, and it was just so backbreaking. So now you can't do that, so you can still obviously do that combo of like using Hecarim to activate Raza with his ephemeral units, but it's now not as fast, so I do like it. Raza's still powerful. I think he'll still see play. Not going to be a 3 of. Even in some decks, we're already starting to cut at least like 1 Raza and going down to 2 Razas only. Some were still running 3. The greedier versions, the versions I ran, were always running 3 because I'm greedy. So now I think Raza might see play as like a 2 of only, maybe even only as a 1 of. I don't think Shadow Isle decks will cut him. He's too powerful. Like, that summon ability is just so good. Like, just being able to kill 2 things. Sure, of course, you can respond to it with Deny, but that's also been nerfed. You could be like, all right, the Raza summons on the stack, play like a Vile Feast to bring in a spider, so the spider dies instead of something else. Who knows? It's nice. I do like the nerf, though. I still wish they would have nerfed Hecarim as well, but nerfing Ladros and Raza and Ladros, it's good enough. Like, Raza and Hecarim were the two cards on my list I wanted to see nerfed the most, and by nerfing Raza and Ladros instead of Raza and Hecarim, I think that's gonna but hamper Shadow Isles enough without completely decimating the region, because they still have Hecarim, and Hecarim is super strong. And he's very scary. Next up, though, we got 2 cards here. We got Scuttlegeist, and we got Tortured Prodigy. Scuttlegeist used to have no keywords. Now it has Fearsome. Now it's a 10 mana 5/5 that's cost is reduced by 1 for each ally that died. Tortured Prodigy is now a 4/4 instead of a 3/4. Let's see what this says. We're removing some raw power from Shadow Isles with our changes, as it's just doing too many things too well. On the other hand, we do want to help players build more synergy-driven Shadow Isles decks, so we're providing small buffs to Scuttlegeist and Tortured Prodigy to make them more compelling options for these kind of decks. Thank you, I guess. I am a little scared of Scuttlegeist. This could bring back Shark Chariot decks because Shark Chariots always die. Don't know if they'll want to play it because Scuttlegeist is really slow, but Fearsome does... as we all know by now, Fearsome is annoying, makes it hard to block. Scuttlegeist with Fearsome, that was kind of like the issue with these kind of cards that are just like big guys that get discounted for doing certain things. It's just, you chump block them. So, yeah, I like the Fearsome change. The Tortured Prodigy change, I also like it for Expedition, because like sometimes you would pick this card in Expedition and you'd be like, I don't want to play a 5 mana 3/4. 5 mana 4/4, it's still bad, but it's not the worst, but I still think this card could be broken, though. I talked about it a little bit in my rating video about Tortured Prodigy. I really think this card might get broken in a future set because the ability is just strong. So who knows? Maybe we'll see it get nerfed eventually or even reworked. Next up, though, we got Wraith Collar, the last of the nerfs. Thank God, first off. Wraith Collar is now a 4 mana 4/3, and that's it. The Allegiance Summon of Mist Wraith is still there. It just no longer has Fearsome. Nice. Very nice. It's kind of an annoying card. Let's see what they have to say. Wraith Collar has been a dominant value card for Fearsome-based decks. The combination of 2 bodies, boosting all Mist Wraiths, and evasion made this among the most efficient cards in Legends of Runeterra. Considering the free Misc Wraith already comes with Fearsome, we're cutting the keyword from Wraith Collar to reduce the amount of evasion and overall value it puts on the board. I like it. Because a lot of the times, you kind of have to 2-for-1 yourself on Wraith Collar, right? You have to use one card to kill the Wraith Collar and then another card to kill the Misc Wraith itself. So it's like, your 2 cards killed their 1 card in theory. It killed a Wraith Collar and a Misc Wraith, but that Misc Wraith was created from the Wraith Collar. So now, like, it's still a problem. Like, it's just, this is not a small nerf. Like, this is not that big of a nerf. Now you can just chump it. Like, you can block it with, like, a 1-1, like a spider, and it puts it in avalanche, less mystic shot range. Not much to talk about here, I think. Like, it's nice. It just lets you chump block. Now, it slows down the clock, too, so, like, you can't be like, okay, like, turn 2 Misc Wraith, turn 3 Skitterer, turn 4 Wraith Collar, turn 5 something, turn 6 Hecarim, crush them. It's still really strong. Like, this Wraith Collar is still really, really, really strong, and it's still going to see play. I think it's still going to be a 3 of. And, like, out of all the nerfs, this is probably one of the nerfs that's on the weaker side, in all honesty. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, this isn't going to be that much of a change. Like, of course it's a nerf. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay how much of a nerf it is. It is a nerf, but it's not that big of a nerf, and Wraith Collar is still an insanely powerful card. Now that's all the cards, I believe. So, real quick, let's just go over a few more of these things here and talk about other things that are on these notes. The watch list. I like this thing that they do here. According to the watch list, they are watching Fearsome. Legends of Runeterra is built around a central pattern of interactive, interesting combats. One of the reasons we were keeping an eye on elusive decks and ultimately made some changes is that when firing on all cylinders, they removed much of that interactivity. Very true. In large concentrations, Fearsome can have a similar impact. Once it becomes very difficult to block, the points of interaction shrink and a lot of the interesting back and forth in the game disappears. For now, we think the changes in this patch, plus some existing tools, provide enough counter pressure on Fearsome, but we'll be keeping an eye on those units and their supporting cards. Good to know. Like, I always hated playing around, like, playing against Fearsome and being like, this card is a good card, but it doesn't have 3 power, so I don't really want to play it. Kind of, and I'd be like, this card's like, I can't play it because it doesn't have 3 power, and I need something with 3 power to block early Fearsomes, like Elise. Next up, though, we got them talking about control. Let's see what they have to say about control, because, like, I like control decks. Please don't nerf them too much. Collectively, the card updates in this patch represent a general reduction in the power of tools that aggressive and mid-range decks have to combat control strategies. That is true. Specifically, ways to reach inevitability. While control decks haven't been problematic so far during beta, we'll be keeping an eye out to see if they've been overly powered up by these changes or their consequences. I'm very glad to hear that, because I was going to say, like, I hope they don't think control's really good at the moment, because it's not. It's, like, very underplayed. Outside of, like, Ashe, Noxus control, I'd say. There's some combo decks, and, like, sure, Heimerdinger's played too, of course, but... And, like, there is combo, like Ezreal combo. Now, let's see what else they have here. We've heard feedback that it can be hard to tell whether units' effects allow opponents to react or not, so we've added that info to tooltips. Units with effects that allow opponents' reaction now have a skills icon next to player attack in the card text. Okay, that's nice. What about this? Expedition archetypes. We're pretty happy with the diversity of strategies and archetypes that can perform well in expeditions, but are making some tweaks to a few outliers. Demacian Steel has been consistently overperforming due to a full roster of units with strong stat lines, so we're adding in a common card that's on the weaker side, but mixes up what this archetype brings to the table. Added Chainvest. Battle Scars has been great at pumping up the power of its units, but could have a tough time actually closing out games, so the addition of Might will allow these units, or those units, to go over the top of opposing blockers. Alpha Wildclaw is also being swapped in for Bull Elnuck to give the archetype a stronger late game. Oh man, I liked Bull Elnuck. I really liked Bull Elnuck. But okay, it seems like Bull Elnuck's going into Suit Up though. Suit Up has also been overperforming due to the consistency of challenger units, backed up by Frostbite and barriers, so we're enabling the Battle Scars changes by making the opposite unit swap here. Okay, that's good though. That's really good to know that Bull Elnuks are going to be there, because I like picking like Bull Elnuk and Pack Elnuk and just like slamming a million Elnuks, because like Bull Elnuk's just a 4-mana 4/5. It's great. What else we got here? Shroom and Boom has been struggling lately. That's very true. I've tried it a lot, and I always die. It's leading us to remove some underperforming cards like Get Excited, which isn't as exciting when you're hoping to use your Mushroom Clouds to actually put mushrooms in the opposing deck. In their place, we're adding Assembly Bot and Plaza Guardian to reward you for casting Mushroom Clouds, as well as Static Shock as a flexible removal spell that helps you not run out of cards. Good to know. Finally, we've also made some minor improvements to the way the shopkeeper selects trades, so you'll more often be offered compelling choices. Shopkeeper trade logic improved. Good to know. Holy crap, this is a long video. I did not realize I was at the 41-minute mark almost. So that's the entire patch. Yeah, that's the entire patch notes. Now, of course, as I said, there's more stuff down here about like expedition reward XP changes, some PC options, and some miscellaneous stuff, and so on and so forth. But I mostly just wanted to talk about like the changes to expedition and cards in general. I do like the changes overall. I do think Piltover and Zon is going to get a huge surge in playability. None of their cards got touched at all, and Heimerdinger and Ezreal were already somewhat playable. I think Fiora decks might come back to. Ashe Noxus decks, I don't believe got touched, so we might see some Ashe control in the future, like Ashe control, Ezreal combo. And I think Shadow Isles will still be around too, because like Hecarim's still strong, Glimpse is still good, Vile Feast is great, Black Spear is good. The overall like region's just good, so I think it's still playable. Anyway, though, that's gonna be it for today's patch analysis, take apart, whatever you want to call this. I will be doing this for every single balance patch. Not every single patch, because we'll have some patches which are just small, like bug fix patches, and there won't really be anything to talk about here or in those patches. But here in these kind of patches where it's like a hey, we're changing these cards, we're doing this thing, we're changing this, we're adding that, we're doing this, we're moving that, I'll definitely make videos like this where I go through every single change and I look at every single change. I'll give my thoughts on it and my thoughts on how it's going to affect the game as well. So that's going to be it for today's analysis. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me ramble and give my thoughts on the changes and what I think this means for the game. If you did enjoy the video, I would love it if you guys could support me and leave a like or a comment down below to help out the channel and help out me and my videos. If you guys also want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, obviously there's more videos on the channel itself. You can go and check me out on my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Zeneton, where I stream Runeterra pretty much almost every day for hours upon hours, and I play all kinds of decks, mostly just control, grindy, greedy stuff, because that's the kind of player I am. Play some Expedition. I've been playing a lot of Expedition recently too. Anyway, though, if you want to keep up with the Runeterra content also as well, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. So again, I hope you all enjoyed the video and the analysis of the entire patch, and I hope to see you guys in a future video or maybe on my stream. Say hello to me, drop on by, say hi, whatever. So with that all said and done, though, thank you all again once more for watching the entire video. I hope to see you guys in another video. So until then, bye!